The grand auditorium aboard the Galactic Council's flagship was a masterpiece of alien architecture. It was a vast, open space, its walls lined with shimmering panels that reflected the light of distant stars, each representing the powerful civilizations that called the galaxy home. Dozens of species had gathered for the annual assembly, their representatives seated in a carefully arranged circle, awaiting the arrival of the latest contender for membership. Among them stood Jonathan Carter, the Earth Federation's ambassador, his heart racing as he prepared to present humanity's case. Carter, a man of unwavering resolve, had spent months crafting his speech. He knew that this moment was crucial, not just for Earth, but for the future of his people. His voice was calm as he began to speak, outlining humanity's achievements in space exploration, diplomacy, and peacekeeping. He spoke with pride, recounting how Earth had united against internal conflicts and forged a new path in the stars. The other representatives listened, their expressions unreadable, but Carter felt the weight of their collective indifference. First, the Drakari spoke. The Drakari were a towering species, their scales glinting in the light as their leader, a cold-eyed general, raised a hand. "You think your species is ready for this? A planet barely out of its infancy, still dealing with the remnants of internal strife?" The words were sharp, like a blade cutting through the air. The Drakari's voice was filled with contempt, and the rest of the council murmured in agreement. Next, the Zental, a race known for their silent intelligence, sent their representative forward. A figure cloaked in deep robes, their face hidden, in shadow. They spoke with calm precision, but their message was clear. Humanity was far too young, its understanding of the galaxy's intricate politics shallow and limited. The Zental's thoughts were rarely expressed openly, but everyone knew that their opinion was one of the most respected in the council. Their subtle rejection stung like the Drakari's, but it was more insidious, a quiet dismissal that made Carter feel small. Finally, the Phala, a proud and regal species with wings that shimmered like the stars themselves, weighed in. Their representative, a tall, graceful figure draped in elegant garments, leaned forward. "You come to us with nothing but promises and dreams. Your species cannot even match the power of the older races. What could you possibly offer the Galactic Council that we don't already have? Your technology is primitive. Your history insignificant. You are a speck in the vastness of the galaxy." Each word was a blow, and Carter could feel the sting of every insult, every dismissal. The other representatives, the beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, all shared the same sentiment. Humanity was nothing more than a fleeting curiosity, a species with no place among the stars. Despite the growing sense of shame, Carter held his ground. He didn't flinch, didn't show the anger he felt rising within him. He had prepared for this, knowing that rejection was always a possibility. But the cold, cutting rejection felt worse than he had imagined. He could feel the weight of the centuries-old wisdom, the history of these powerful species pressing down on him. The final blow came when the head of the council, a being whose age seemed as ancient as the galaxy itself, spoke. "You will never be granted a seat, Ambassador Carter. Earth is insignificant. Your time will come, but it is not now. Perhaps in another millennium or two, if your species proves worthy." The decision was final, and with that, Carter's hopes were crushed in an instant. There would be no recognition for Earth, no seat at the table of galactic power. As Carter turned to leave the assembly hall, the weight of their rejection heavy on his shoulders, he felt the eyes of the council upon him, filled with disdain and pity. But in that moment, something shifted inside him. The shame he felt gave way to a burning determination. He would prove them wrong. Humanity would rise, not as a weak species to be overlooked, but as a force that could reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. They had no idea what Earth was truly capable of. With one final, determined glance back at the council, Carter made a vow to himself. He would make them regret their dismissal. He would show them that humanity was not a species to be ignored. Not now. Not ever. And so, with his head held high, Jonathan Carter walked out of the auditorium. The silence of the council hung in the air. But for Carter, it was the beginning of something far greater. Something the galaxy would never forget. Back, on Earth, hidden deep within a classified facility, the hum of machines echoed through the vast chambers, far from the prying eyes of the public. Jonathan Carter, along with a select group of scientists, engineers, and military personnel, stood at the center of something that could change the course of human history. The project they were part of had been kept in absolute secrecy, even from the highest levels of government. For decades, Earth had concealed its true potential, carefully maintaining the illusion of a primitive species. But now, the time had come for that secret to be unleashed. The facility was unlike any other, buried deep in the mountains, shielded from satellites, and protected by layers of encryption. The scientists who had worked on this project, codenamed Event Horizon, were some of Earth's brightest minds, each one handpicked for their knowledge of quantum mechanics, energy manipulation, and cutting-edge weaponry. They had spent years on this project, its origins hidden even from most of the military, and its implications too dangerous to share with the public. No one outside the team had any idea what was truly being developed. But now, standing in front of an experimental device, Carter could feel the gravity of the moment. The room was silent except for the occasional buzz of the equipment. The air was thick with anticipation. "Are we ready?" Carter asked, his voice steady, though a hint of uncertainty lingered in his mind. This was it. The device in front of them wasn't just a new weapon. It was something far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. It was a machine that could tap into the very fabric of space-time itself. A miniature singularity, contained within a core of electromagnetic fields, capable of harnessing energy far greater than any conventional power source. Its purpose was simple: to provide Earth with an unlimited, sustainable energy supply. But as they had discovered, there was far more to it than that. The team had spent the past few months calibrating the device, testing its limits, and ensuring it could be controlled. The singularity was a force of nature, pulling in and compressing energy at a level that bordered on the impossible. If activated properly, it could theoretically supply entire planets with energy. But there was a risk, a dangerous one. The power it could unleash was unimaginable. "Activating now," said Dr. Elena Voss, the lead scientist, her fingers hovering over the console. The tension in the room was palpable, everyone holding their breath. With a single press of a button, the core of the device came to life. The hum of energy intensified, a brilliant blue light beginning to radiate from the core as it stabilized. The singularity was contained, but only just. For a moment, nothing happened. But then, as the machine hummed louder, the walls around them seemed to warp. Carter felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The singularity was doing something they hadn't expected. Suddenly, a surge of power erupted from the core, a pulse that sent a shockwave rippling through the facility. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the team thought they had lost control. But then, the readouts on the screens changed. What they saw wasn't just an energy spike, it was a weapon. A weapon that could decimate fleets, a force of destruction that could tear apart entire armadas. The singularity, in its infinite compression, had unlocked a new form of weaponry, one capable of unleashing a burst of energy strong enough to obliterate entire fleets in a single strike. It was something humanity had never even dreamed of, a weapon far more powerful than anything the Galactic Council had ever seen or could imagine. The realization hit Carter like a tidal wave. Earth wasn't just a fledgling species struggling to find its place among the stars. They were sitting on a weapon of unimaginable power, a weapon that could change everything. It wasn't just about energy anymore. It was about survival. The Council had dismissed humanity as a threat, believing them to be weak, but they had no idea what was coming. Carter could only imagine the shock, the disbelief, when the galactic powers learned what humanity had truly been hiding. The Council had made a grave mistake, one that they would soon regret. The time for proving humanity's worth had arrived, and Earth would no longer be underestimated. As the device continued to hum with energy, Carter's mind raced. They had to act quickly, but the question was, would they be ready when the storm came? The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Earth's newfound weapon technology, a discovery that had been carefully guarded in secrecy, was no longer a hidden treasure. A few rogue operatives, with ties to galactic factions unhappy with humanity's sudden leap forward, leaked the information. Within days, the Galactic Council had learned of Earth's singularity-based technology, and the response was swift. The Council, confident in their power, believed that Earth posed no immediate threat. But the leaders of the Galactic Council underestimated one critical thing: the adaptability and ingenuity of humanity. They assumed Earth's primitive military would crumble under the weight of the galaxy's most advanced forces. They were gravely mistaken. The Drakari, the galaxy's most brutal and militant race, were the first to act. Known for their savagery in battle and their cold, calculating nature, they saw Earth's rise as a direct threat to their supremacy. They had no intention of letting humanity grow any stronger. Their decision was clear: a preemptive strike on Earth's outer colonies to wipe out any resistance before it could become serious. The Drakari assembled a fleet of enormous warships, each one a symbol of their terrifying strength. Massive and heavily armed, the Drakari believed their ships would simply crush any Earth defense, leaving humanity with no chance of retaliation. The attack came without warning. Drakari warships tore through the silence of space, streaking towards Earth's colonies on the fringe of their solar system. With deadly precision, the Drakari launched their assault, bombarding the outer colonies. With advanced weaponry, entire colonies were reduced to ash in a matter of hours. But what the Drakari didn't know was that Earth wasn't as vulnerable as they thought. What they didn't know was that Carter had been preparing for this moment, using every advantage the singularity technology had given humanity. In the midst of the chaos, Carter received the signal. The fleet was ready, and Earth's counteroffensive would begin. Leading from the front, Carter commanded a squadron of Earth's most advanced ships, which had been retrofitted with the new singularity-based weaponry. These ships, once considered rudimentary compared to the Drakari's mighty warships, were now a deadly force. The new technology, powered by controlled singularities, allowed Earth's ships to unleash energy blasts capable of tearing through shields and obliterating entire fleets. The singularity-powered weaponry was humanity's trump card, and they weren't about to let the Drakari's brutal strike go unanswered. As the Drakari fleet approached Earth's defensive line, Carter's ships emerged from the darkness of space. The battle that followed was nothing short of explosive. The Drakari, confident in their overwhelming strength, were caught off guard by the ferocity of the human response. Humanity's ships, though smaller and less imposing, moved with agility and precision, firing devastating blasts of concentrated energy from their singularity-powered cannons. Each shot was like a small sun igniting, causing massive explosions that shattered Drakari warships in the blink of an eye. The Drakari, unprepared for such a force, scrambled to retaliate, but their counterattacks were ineffective against the sheer power of Earth's new weaponry. The battle unfolded in a deadly dance of fire and chaos as human ships darted between blasts and returned fire with unparalleled accuracy. In a matter of hours, the once invincible Drakari fleet was reduced to debris. Massive warships that had been the pride of the Drakari were now drifting lifeless in space, their shields and armor shattered by humanity's unexpected power. The remaining Drakari vessels, unable to cope with the ferocity of the human counterattack, retreated in disarray. The victory was absolute. Carter stood at the heart of the operation, his nerves steady as he watched the Drakari forces break apart before his eyes. It was a moment of triumph for humanity, a statement that would echo across the galaxy. News of the defeat spread quickly through the Council, and for the first time, the galaxy was forced to confront the reality of humanity's power. Earth had delivered a staggering blow to one of the galaxy's most feared races, and the Council's assumptions about human weakness had been shattered in an instant. Carter's victory, and the success of the counteroffensive, marked a turning point in galactic history. Humanity, once dismissed as a fledgling species, had now proven itself a force to be reckoned with. The shockwave of this battle would resonate far beyond the borders of the Drakari Empire, leaving the galactic powers stunned, confused, and, for the first time, afraid of what Earth was capable of. In the cold void of space, as the remnants of the Drakari fleet drifted into nothingness, humanity stood victorious. The first strike had been made, and the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The news of humanity's stunning victory against the Drakari spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Within days, the entire Galactic Council was in turmoil. How could a species they had long mocked, a planet so young and considered weak, possess such overwhelming power? The Drakari, a race known for their fearsome might and military prowess, had been shattered in a matter of hours by Earth's seemingly primitive ships. This unprecedented event had left the galaxy reeling, and whispers of humanity's potential spread faster than the light of distant stars. Rumors began to circulate that Earth scientists had discovered a form of energy manipulation that no species had ever even dreamed of. Technology capable of bending the very fabric of space-time itself. The Council, which had long assumed it, controlled the balance of power in the galaxy, was now scrambling to understand the truth. An emergency session was called, a rare occurrence, reserved only for the most dire threats. The meeting took place in the Council's Grand Chamber, a room filled with representatives of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful species. As they gathered, a sense of unease filled the air. The Phyla, a race known for their intellect and cunning, were the first to speak. Their representative, a sleek figure draped in shimmering robes, leaned forward, their sharp eyes glinting. "We have underestimated Earth," the Phyla representative said, their voice cold and calculating. The Drakari were no fools, and yet they were obliterated with such ease. If they could be defeated, what else could humanity be hiding? "We must consider the possibility that Earth has unlocked a power far beyond anything we have ever seen. A power that could be dangerous on a scale we cannot comprehend." The room fell silent, the weight of their words sinking in. The Council had never expected humanity to rise this quickly, and now, as they discussed the implications, they realized they were facing something far more formidable than they had anticipated. The other species exchanged wary glances, murmuring among themselves, but no one disagreed with the Phyla's assessment. Humanity's victory had shaken the very foundation of the galaxy's power structure. While the Council debated and struggled to find a way to counter Earth's growing influence, Jonathan Carter, the man who had led the counteroffensive against the Drakari, knew what had to be done. He understood that the galaxy's powers would never forgive humanity for defying them. They would not rest until Earth was brought down, humbled, and made to bow before the might of the galactic elite. And so, Carter began to prepare for the next inevitable conflict. The Drakari were just the beginning. The galaxy would not forget the humiliation they had suffered, and humanity could not afford to wait for the next strike. Carter knew that to survive, humanity needed more than just military might. They needed reputation. They needed to show the galaxy that Earth was not only capable of defending itself, but that it would never be cowed again. If the galaxy was going to view humanity as a serious threat, Earth needed to establish dominance not only in battle, but in politics, alliances, and influence. In the shadows of the war room, Carter set to work. He began to rally the human colonies, those scattered across the far reaches of space, forgotten and often overlooked by the rest of the galaxy. These colonies, though small, had always been fiercely loyal to Earth. They were now ready to rise, to stand with their homeworld and face the storm together. Carter's leadership was unwavering as he forged a new interstellar alliance. This new coalition would not just be a defensive pact. It would be a declaration of Earth's strength, a unified front that would strike fear into any who dared challenge humanity's right to exist in the galaxy. The galaxy watched, unsure of what would come next. While the Council continued to debate and search for ways to contain Earth's new power, humanity moved forward, determined to carve out a future where they would no longer be dismissed. The preparations were already underway, and Carter knew that the next war would not be one of survival. It would be a war for respect, a war to prove that humanity was no longer the underdog, but a force to be reckoned with. And as the Council members argued, the truth settled in. Earth had already won the first battle. The galaxy was no longer the same, and soon, humanity would ensure that the entire galaxy knew it. The fallout from their victory had only just begun. The Galactic Council, now fully aware of the threat humanity posed, declared an all-out war on Earth and its rapidly expanding network of allies. But in their haste to eliminate this new challenger, they made a critical mistake, underestimating humanity's resolve. The Council, accustomed to ruling the galaxy with an iron fist, believed that brute force would be enough to crush Earth's defiance. What they didn't realize was that Earth's response would be far more than just military might. Humanity's strength lay in its adaptability, its creativity, and above all, its unshakable will to survive. Carter, aware of the dangers ahead, knew that Earth had far more to offer than anyone could imagine. It wasn't just technology that would win this war. It was the mind-bending potential of Earth's scientific advancements. With the declaration of war, Carter revealed the true extent of Earth's capabilities. From the shadows of Earth's deepest research facilities, Carter unveiled a vast network of quantum weaponry, machines capable of distorting the fabric of reality itself. Alongside this, Earth had developed weapons that could manipulate gravity and time, forces that had once been confined to the realm of science fiction. These weapons were a game changer, and as Carter sent them into battle, the galaxy's most advanced technologies began to falter. The Council's forces, who had once believed themselves invincible, were now faced with an enemy they could not predict or control. Human ships, though smaller and less formidable in appearance, were powered by these extraordinary technologies. The first engagements were chaotic and disorienting for the Council. The galactic powers had prepared for a conventional war, one based on superior firepower and overwhelming numbers. What they didn't anticipate was the sheer ingenuity of human tactics. Earth's forces, using quantum-powered weapons, could alter the very nature of space around them, disrupting enemy systems with precise bursts of energy that short-circuited advanced technology. Ships that once cruised through space with ease were suddenly rendered helpless, as gravity fields warped around them, their trajectories disrupted by the sheer force of Earth's manipulation of space-time. Each battle was a painful reminder of how little the Council had understood about their enemy. Human fleets didn't just fight to win, they fought with a relentless strategic brilliance that baffled even the most seasoned generals in the galaxy. Carter, leading his forces with precision and cunning, orchestrated victories that left the galaxy's greatest military leaders stunned. The tide was turning, and the once mighty forces of the Council were now struggling to keep pace with Earth's growing strength. The secrets humanity had kept hidden for so long were being revealed slowly, each revelation more devastating than the last. The climax of this devastating campaign came when Earth's fleets, led by Carter, engaged the Zental. The Zental, long revered for their wisdom and peaceful ways, had been one of the most vocal supporters of the Council's decisions. They had always maintained an air of diplomacy, offering advice and guidance to the galaxy's leaders. But beneath their serene exterior, the Zentil were just as eager to preserve their power as any other species in the Council. When Carter and his fleet approached, the Zentil thought they could easily outmaneuver Earth's forces with their advanced shields and superior knowledge. But they were wrong. The first encounter with the Zentil was a shock to the galaxy. The human warships, outfitted with technology that manipulated gravity and space-time, tore through the Zentil's defense systems. The Zentil ships, once thought to be impenetrable, buckled under the intensity of the human assault. The Zentil, known for their calm and peaceful demeanor, now found themselves facing an enemy that showed no mercy. Earth's fleet didn't just fight, they outsmarted the Zentil at every turn. In a matter of hours, the Zentil fleet was in retreat, forced to abandon their position in humiliating defeat. Their once unshakable facade of peace had crumbled, and they were forced to recognize the true power of Earth. The defeat of the Zentil sent shockwaves through the Council. It wasn't just a military loss, it was a profound blow to the legitimacy of the Galactic Council itself. The Zentil had long been considered the wisest and most trusted members of the Council, and if they could be brought to their knees, then no species was safe. The balance of power had shifted, and the Council found itself facing a crisis it had never anticipated. Earth had shown that it was not just a newcomer to the galaxy, it was a force that could alter the very fabric of reality itself. The war had only just begun, but the galaxy was already starting to feel the weight of humanity's wrath. And as Carter prepared for the next battle, he knew one thing for certain: the Council would never look at Earth the same way again. As Earth's power grew and the Council's military strength faltered, cracks began to form within the once united assembly. The galaxy's most powerful factions were now divided. Some species, including the Svorin and the peaceful Seleni, began to see the writing on the wall. They understood that humanity was not a passing threat, but an undeniable force that could shape the future of the galaxy. These voices, once muted in the Council, now pushed for a change in approach. They argued for negotiations, suggesting that Earth could be integrated into the galaxy as a new and powerful ally, one whose technological advancements could benefit the entire galaxy. They recognized that Earth had earned its place at the table. It was clear to them that continued conflict would only lead to more devastation, and perhaps even the collapse of the Galactic Council itself. But there were others, factions that would never accept humanity's rise. The Drakari, enraged by their defeat and humiliated by their retreat, were among the loudest voices calling for vengeance. The Phala, ever calculating, saw Earth's rapid rise as a threat to their own status and power within the Council. They refused to acknowledge humanity as an equal, and instead urged the Council to fight on, to crush Earth's defiance before it could grow any stronger. For these factions, the idea of negotiating with humanity was anathema. They could not, and would not, accept the possibility that Earth might become a dominant force in the galaxy. As the rift between the factions deepened, the once mighty Council began to fracture. Its authority, once absolute, was now in question. The leadership of the Council teetered on the brink of collapse, with no clear consensus on how to proceed. Some pushed for peace, others for war, but all were united in their fear. The galaxy had never seen a force like Earth, and that fear grew with each passing day. The military might that had once ruled the stars was now being challenged by a species that had only just begun to show its true strength. Carter, meanwhile, knew that the time for negotiations had long passed. Earth had already made its point. There could be no return to the old ways, no simple compromise. He was not interested in diplomacy. Earth's power was undeniable, and humanity had earned its place in the galaxy. But the Council had failed to recognize that, and now they would have to face the consequences of their arrogance. Earth's message was clear, and it was one the Council would have to accept: surrender and acknowledge humanity's dominance, or face annihilation. With the Council's leaders divided and weak, Carter prepared for the final battle that would decide humanity's fate. He knew that this fight would not be like any other. It would not be a war for survival, but for supremacy. Humanity had already proven itself on the battlefield, and now it was time to make the galaxy understand that Earth would no longer be overlooked, underestimated, or oppressed. The final confrontation would determine whether humanity would remain a side note in galactic history or take its place as the new power at the heart of the galaxy. Carter's allies, those who had fought beside him and believed in Earth's vision, stood ready. The fleets of Earth's colonies, now united under Carter's leadership, were preparing for a war that would alter the very course of the galaxy. No longer would Earth be a target. No longer would humanity hide in the shadows of the galaxy's vast power structure. The time for negotiation was over. The time for action had come. As the Galactic Council trembled on the brink of collapse, Carter knew one thing. This battle would not just be a victory for Earth, it would be a turning point for the entire galaxy. The outcome would not just reshape the balance of power, it would redefine what it meant to be a part of the galaxy. The final battle loomed on the horizon, and Carter's resolve was unshakable. Earth had made its decision. The galaxy would either bend to humanity's will, or it would break. The final battle loomed on the horizon as Carter and his fleet neared the heart of the Galactic Council's seat, a colossal space station that served as both the political and military epicenter of the galaxy. It was surrounded by the fleets of every major power, each one a symbol of the galaxy's once untouchable might. The station itself was a marvel of engineering, a sprawling network of interconnected platforms and docking bays, bristling with weapons and guarded by thousands of ships. But as Carter's forces approached, the hum of his fleet's engines signaled something different, something the galaxy had never witnessed before. Humanity, once seen as insignificant, was about to deliver the final blow to the very institution that had ruled the stars for centuries. Carter stood at the helm of the flagship, eyes focused on the distant station. The singularity-based weapons, the ones that had already altered the course of the war, were now primed and ready. The time for diplomacy had long passed. The Council had chosen war, and humanity had risen to meet it. Earth's fleet moved into position, sleek warships brimming with power and determination. Behind them, the newly forged Interstellar Alliance stood united, ready for the culmination of all their efforts. The galaxy would see no more hesitation, no more negotiations. It would see the reckoning of the Galactic Council. The Council, despite its fractured leadership and crumbling unity, tried to mount a desperate defense. The fleets of the Drakari, the Phala, and other factions aligned with the Council attempted a final, coordinated counterattack. But it was too late. The gap between humanity's technology and the Council's forces had widened beyond repair. Carter's fleet, using their superior knowledge of space manipulation and quantum weaponry, tore through the Council's defenses with ruthless precision. Human ships weaved through enemy fire, using gravitational waves to disorient and disable. The Council's fleets, the singularity weapons, once thought to be an impossible force, tore apart the station's outer defenses, causing ripples of destruction that sent shockwaves through the entire battlefront. In a stunning series of tactical maneuvers, Carter's fleet breached the heart of the Galactic Council's stronghold. The Council's once impenetrable fortress began to crumble under the weight of human ingenuity. Carter's ships, guided by the precision of Earth's most brilliant minds, struck at the very core of the station, targeting its command center with surgical strikes. The final blow came when Carter himself, leading a small but deadly strike team, infiltrated the central chambers of the Galactic Council's leadership. There, he delivered a decisive strike, shutting down the systems that powered the Council's authority and, with it, their reign over the galaxy. As the dust settled, a profound silence enveloped the galaxy. The once proud Galactic Council, an institution that had stood for millennia, was no more. Its leadership lay in ruins, and its fleets were scattered or crippled. The factions that had supported the council were left scrambling, their power broken, and their influence shattered. The galaxy, once ruled by the council's iron fist, now found itself in a new era, one where humanity's power could no longer be ignored. In the wake of the council's defeat, Earth stood victorious. No longer the underdog, no longer the species dismissed and mocked, humanity had claimed its place among the stars. Carter, standing at the helm of Earth's flagship, looked out at the wreckage of the once great council and the fleets of the galaxy now under Earth's sway. His eyes were hard, but a flicker of satisfaction passed through them. Humanity had fought for this moment, and now it was theirs. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. A new galaxy had emerged from the ashes of the old one. Earth's voice would no longer be ignored. It would be respected, feared, and heard. The Council's dominance had crumbled, and with it, the old ways of galactic politics. Humanity, once mocked and underestimated, had become the new power at the center of the galaxy. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's wrath had only just begun. And with this victory, they would reshape the galaxy according to their will. The future belonged to Earth now, and the galaxy would learn to live by humanity's rules.